Good morning, everyone. This is National Master Ruben Ondangan, again teaching in the LA Chess Club intermediate class. Good morning to all of you, and thank you so much. Today, I would like to talk about unconventional chess. All right, unconventional with the idea or definition that it is unusual, it's not common. It's something that is derived probably most on the creative part or aspect of a chess player. I think we all needed some kind of creativity, right? When the advent of the computer, it already lost the desire of players to play intelligent chess or something that you use your mind. You always depend on the computer analysis and evaluation, and I think that's killing the game, right? And there are three important authors that I would like to mention that consider that certain great players. For example, Irving, I think it's Irving Chernev, considered Jose Raul Capablanca as the best player of all time, right? And most other authors considered Bobby Fischer as the best player of all time. But there's one former world champion who considers only the greatest player of all time, according to him, is Alexander Alekhine. And because of his son, I said, let me read his book. Why did he mention that Alekhine is the greatest player of all time? Go ahead.
My name is Alexander.
Oh, now you will be the greatest boy here at this moment. Or Alexander the great conqueror, okay? So, not because they battled the world championship, I believe in 1937, right? Not only that, but he understands that Alekhine plays unconventional chess, something that is hard for him to understand at first, and it takes a lot of study for him to absorb the thought process of a player of Alekhine's caliber. And so today, I would like to show maybe one or two games of Alexander Alekhine. So let's go back in history, all right? For a moment, I will set aside some of my games, like this last few lectures I did is about me. No, it's not about me anymore. Today is about a great guy, okay? So here is Alekhine's game as white against Henry Wolf. Played in Pistian in 1922. Yeah, they play like this back in the days, huh? Pawn Q4. Here we have a D4 opening, okay? And I believe at this era, in the early 1900s up to 1930s, they understand the concept of center. If you play E4, they play E5. You play D4, they play D5. It's just, we battle equally from beginning. And so that was the idea. The natural response back then, the classical approach, D5. And only later on did it start showing up this hypermodern. Hypermodern is you try not to see the center early on, but try to play with different idea in mind. For example, the hypermodern will play knight f6, or G6 and create a fianchetto. But classical game plays D5. So both have equal control of center. Okay? Knight King Bishop 3 was played, or Knight F3. The classical approach here, if your opponent does not create a tension or a problem for you in the early stage of the game, you should give it to them. Okay, so the first one who strikes here at the center is black. Actually, he played C5. We have an early idea of Tarrasch, right, where he attacked immediately the center and create a tension, right, a problem for white to solve. So here, Alekhine played after pawn queen bishop 4 or C5, played C4. Now we see here, again, we're back to symmetry, right? We're back to you control the center, I control, you create problem, I create problem. Let's see who gives up in the ensuing problematic situation here, because there's so many things happening in this moment. This can be captured, that can be captured, so this can be captured, and so on and so forth, except for one thing. What is that? White has the advantage of first move. He has one knight out compared to black. Okay, so how does Alekhine maintain such kind of slight, if anything, very microscopic advantage in the opening? Here, after C4, Henry Wolff captured the deeper pawn. And it looks like that white will be left without a center pawn. How should you capture this if you are white? With the queen? If you capture with the queen, black gains a tempo with knight to c6.
But then queen takes d5.
Hmm?
But then queen takes d5.
Queen takes d5?
Yeah. And you sacrifice the queen. And then you have a
This is what's going to happen.
Oh,
You see, let's see you saw 3 moves. You need another 1 or 2 to finally have a clear idea of what's going to happen. This is going to happen, and black will simply regain the pawn on d5. It's still about equal, but this knight will find itself in an unfavorable square at the edge, right? See? So he did not capture on. Let's go back. Good point, though. Instead, Alekhine played a different move. Let's see what he played. So this was the situation. Suggest another move.
knight to d4.
If knight d4 now, what's going to happen?
d5.
We have e5. For example, knight f3, d4, and you see how black's position suddenly become very, very strong in the center. Somebody will ask, what about knight takes e5? Anybody?
Queen a5 check.
Queen a5 check, and the poor horse was snagged. Okay, check.
It's cruelty to animals.
This type of position is something for you to pay attention to, okay? Very important tactics. So, he cannot capture with the knight. He can't capture with the pawn, with the queen.
Took pawn with the pawn with.
So instead, let's just capture the pawn, and since you don't want me to have a center, I will not allow you to have a center either. Okay? So that's bring us back to square 1. Okay? So it's a battle, jockeying for position here. So pawn takes pawn, what should black do here?
Knight f6.
Very good. Knight f6. And if you're white, now remember here, Alekhine is known in his idea and concept of the game. He wants to have a favorable position right in the very early stage, in order for his attack to facilitate and move smoothly. If he doesn't have an advantage, he becomes frustrated. I think that's what happened in the World Championship match between Max Ube and Alexander Alekhine. Ube just continue persisting on preventing Alekhine to be in his element. Okay, here, knight f6 was played by Henrik Wolff. What did Alekhine played here?
Queen a4 check. Queen check. Pick up the pawn.
You could just pick up the pawn right away.
Earlier, we cannot capture the pawn because of the knight c6. Now, we can
Capture with the queen.
capture with the queen. Now, remember, what is the difference between queen capture and knight capture? Anybody?
Knight capture.
With regards to idea of development or time,
Using the same piece twice new.
not only that, when you capture with the knight, that still give you only 1 piece out. But when you capture with the queen, now you have 2 pieces. That's a major difference. Major difference, okay? So queen takes pawn. After queen takes pawn, pawn a6. Okay, what is the idea of a6? To prevent any piece jumping on b5. Even the check, you have knight, you have b5. So those kind of things is more like in the concept of prophylaxis, I should say.
But
So
now you can play e4.
after knight a6, then we'll see here what is your suggestion?
e4.
Very good.
C3.
No wonder this guy is already 2000 rated, huh? in blitz. Okay. E4, pawn to king 4. Okay, now you see after a few twists and turn in the position, who have the advantage, right now? It is white. He has a control of the center.
He's a pawn up.
2 piece up, right? With against 1 knight and a pawn out, 2, 4, 6. This doesn't look good anymore for black. Okay? So after pawn king 4, what happened?
Knight c6.
Knight c6, pawn
Knight
takes.
c6.
Knight c6, pawn takes. The knight is defending the queen.
Oh, see, instead of where everybody say queen takes pawn, you're right.
Oh, he did take the
He captured with the knight. This is Alekhine. Now, that kind of be unusual because most of us will play queen takes on here without looking at the notes. And instead he played knight takes, that's why the opponent played a6. What's going to happen? For a moment, let's go back in the position here. Instead of queen takes pawn, what's going to happen if knight takes pawn?
knight takes, then e4.
Right? If knight takes pawn, we have e4. White gains the upper hand in the center. Okay? The knight was driven. After knight c3, and white has a favorable position in the form of the open game. From queen pawn opening, we are transferred into some sort of open game with pawn king 4. Okay, so instead, he played a6, thinking that this pawn is his and he can capture it anytime, correct?
So now Alekhine played e4.
Knight takes pawn is not passed as the threat now. Now Alekhine played e4. Okay, here it is where Alekhine shows his element. What's going on here, class? What if knight takes pawn? What's going to happen?
Queen a4 check.
This boy seems like read the book. Did you read it? What's going on here? Queen a4 check. Okay. Now remember, a6 is supposed to prevent anything jumping in b5. Unfortunately, a4 is still available for the queen. Now we have an extra attack on the knight on e4. Unfortunately, there is a knight blocking that path. But for a moment, let's start thinking that if this knight suddenly create a discovered check, for example, on e6 or c6, this knight will be en prie or available for the taking for the queen, correct? So the check is first of all a dilemma, how to block the check. You have 3 choices, the queen, the bishop, and the knight, or none of the above.
Or resigns.
So, because this is already a problem. Now, remember, in chess is about giving your opponent problem. If you're not giving them problem, you will receive them. Okay? And here, it is a very problematic situation for black. How to block the check. How about b5? Anybody?
Knight takes b5.
Not only that, bishop takes b5, develop another piece with check. And remember, it cannot be captured because of the pin. Everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. You're too advanced for this class. Can you please step up? Okay, queen a4. This is intermediate class. Come on. Queen a4 check. What happened? Instead, what's going to happen if knight d7?
Knight c6. Oh, knight e6.
Knight e6 is very devastating right here. You see that? What's going to happen if pawn takes knight? See now?
No, wait.
It's pin.
Wait. That's bad. Knight ec5.
Still capture,
Oh, it's check.
right?
But then bishop takes. Black isn't doing so bad here.
It's really bad here in this position. And black's position is in ruins. The king cover is already compromised, so it's just a matter of time before black should surrender here. So you see now the idea of the unveiling of the attack on this knight with another knight. So here is the position. Knight d7 doesn't look very appetizing. About queen d7.
Queen d7, then bishop d5 or knight d5.
Very good. Bishop b5 is just a pain in the neck. All right. So that leaves us with only one move, whether we like it or not. We have to block and attack the queen with bishop to d7. Now, here, class, I want you to learn something here. This is the idea of Alekhine. Alekhine doesn't go with just check for no reason. The idea of the check is to create an interference. It blocks the attack on the pawn for black to regain that pawn. So now after white transfer his queen to a more favorable square, it will require another tempo or another move for black just to create harmony once again. The position right now is no more harmony. There's no harmony with the bishop blocking the queen, the knight, the bishop took the position of the knight, and so on and so forth. It's just a discord and chaos in black's position. This is the Alekhine that I've learned. He created problem in your position. It's hard for you to recover. Now, if you can do that to your opponent, you start playing like Alekhine. Okay? Remember that saying, Patzer see a check, Patzer makes a check. Right? But this is not a Patzer's check. This is a deep check. A check that creates problem for your opponent. So where does the queen go?
Bishop d5.
Alekhine's name.
What about bishop
First
d5?
name.
Where? Where do we go? Bishop b5? Now remember here, that will just be exchanges. After bishop takes bishop, now knight takes bishop.
Now you're turning knight c7.
Well, you play knight d7, and here, let me explain, young man. Okay, here is what's going to happen. If you are an attacker in chess, you want to keep your pieces alive as long as possible. You have no use for dead soldiers in your army. Okay, you need to keep them alive so that they can be useful. Exchanges favor the defender and decide that the position is in tatters or in ruins. You don't help your enemy. That's what you call that? That's considered
Treason.
treason. Very good. You might be hanged for that. Okay. So, do not assist your enemy in making his life comfortable. Okay? So instead of bishop b5, we just transfer the queen to a much more favorable square. And where is that?
Queen c2.
Yeah.
With a gain of tempo. Queen c2 looks good. Any place else?
B3
Very good. Queen b3. Why queen b3?
to target the pawn.
Target the pawn on b7. At the same time, preserve this pawn on d5. Now, what is the difference between b3 and queen c2? Let's see.
Doesn't defend d5.
Queen c2 only attacks the knight, and the knight can always go back, and therefore it attacks the pawn. Now you have to find a way to defend it. While here is again another Alekhine idea. If your opponent's piece is in a bad place, again, don't help them to, go to a much more stronger location. Don't help your enemy. Period. Okay? You've been helping the enemy twice. You're fired. Okay. Queen b3 is better. All right. Leave this knight in an agonizing position. It's not doing anything. So, queen b3,
Knight c5.
knight c5. Now, this was planned by Alekhine because from here, this knight actually has no retreat square. Where does the knight go after for example, queen c2? The knight can go back here. That was the idea of Alekhine. He enticed. Another concept here, enticement. Give your opponent a thought in his mind that he thinks that he's gaining something on you, that he gains a tempo. And Alekhine allows it. Knight c5. Hey, I gain a tempo on your queen. What are you going to do now? Little did he know that this is actually a bad move. The reason is, after, for example, queen c2 now, right? Queen c2 finally. For example, black will be forced to defend the knight with either queen, pawn, pawn, and the softening of the position, for example, e6, this pawn will create problem, pawn takes pawn, and the opening of the position will probably favor white more than black. Okay? Or b6, this will be, again, normal players like you and me will play queen c2 here, gain back the lost tempo. Here we're talking about Alekhine. Remember the title of this topic? Unconventional chess, unusual chess, unexpected chess.
So queen takes 3-7? No, just kidding.
Oh my goodness, that's it.
Hey, I was just kidding.
I know. Alekhine played here what we called an X-ray attack on the king.
Queen e3.
There. Queen e3 is, I call it X-ray because it's not a direct attack on the king because there's a pawn covered there. Right? The queen breeds some kind of uneasiness on the king's position here, even though it's so far away. Very important idea here because, for example, there is a possible discovery attack again on the knight. Let me go back to explain this discovery. Alekhine always shows this type of position. In here earlier, there is what we call a possible discovery. Correct? Now, in this position again, we see he used the tool of the trade, another discovery. See that? If the knight unveils, there's another discovery on the knight. So what kind of tools of trades that Alekhine uses? His bread and butter are pins, discovery attack, right? Check, or what else? Skewers, right? Or knight moves. These are his dangerous bread and butter in the game, and he constantly uses it against any opponent. It's amazing. From here, discovery, another here, another possible discovery. Pure Alekhine. So, queen e3.
Did you suggest queen to b4?
Yeah, I did.
Queen to b4 loses to e5.
What happened?
E5.
If queen b4 instead, if queen
Queen
b4,
b4.
then e5.
Oh, this time is your opponent that have the discovery. Who said queen b4?
Me.
This will, as the tables are turned, and suddenly it is black who use this tool of discovery with a sudden check here. He cannot capture en passant, he cannot retreat with the knight, the queen has to move, and then the knight disappears, face of the earth. Okay, very good point though. At least everybody see these tactical shots in the position. Okay, very important. In a chess game, it's always filled with traps, pitfalls, snares of the enemy. Okay, all this in life, trouble, trials, tribulation. How's that? Okay, so instead, after queen e3, he has to defend this knight. b6. Now, if you're black here, how do you feel you're being forced to make a move that you don't really like, you don't want? For example, this pawn here. You want to play this pawn b6 if the bishop is still on c8 so that you can play bishop b7, correct? Your opponent is just trying to hold you in the hair, grab you in the hair and drag you wherever he wants you, direct your life. That's not good, and this is what's happening to black here. b6 is forced whether he likes it or not, because now the other way to defend the knight is probably e6, but the queen is right there. The softening of the position, the avenue towards the king, is just very big question mark. Okay, it's just a bad idea. Okay, so this is basically force. So b6 after. What's the next move? Now, most of us here, class, will play the developing standard move knight c3. Hooray.
How about D6?
Maybe even b4. Yes.
D6?
d6 will make our pawn a goner after e6 because now the bishop can capture it.
And if you defend it, then the bishop.
Right?
likes where
So, too early. Too early attack. Now remember, in an attack, you require more than 2 men. You need more.
bishop c4.
Bishop c4. I don't know about the idea. What's the idea of bishop c4?
Just x-ray on f7.
X-ray on f7. Now too much X-ray on your part. Okay. So here, most of you will play probably knight c3. I will. Right? and probably even bishop e2 and then castle. That's just the ordinary players like you and me. Maybe even attack the knight and let him go to a even more worse square, like for example knight a4 and knight b7. Okay? Alekhine played unconventional chess. Unexpected. What did he play here? Is what do you call this type of writing? Descriptive, right? This is like old school.
Yeah.
I'm getting mixed up with this English.
It's called English notation.
Pawn to king knight 3 is this pawn. I'm sorry.
That was queen knight.
I was like wondering what is going on here. Pawn to king knight 3. B6 is one of his idea. Now what's going to happen? Pawn king knight 3. That's why it changes everything. I was wondering what is the white's best move here. Now what's going to happen at b4?
Knight a4.
Knight a4. And then look, you actually help the enemy with this diagonal going to the enemy's hand. With the queen, with the knight, for example, is the knight secured or safe or available for white
Well, you could always
to
push
be
B5.
captured?
You could push b5 and protect it.
Not only that, it's already protected by the bishop on d7. So there's no need to protect. The knight, although at the edge of the board, is at the moment actually safe because it can be rerouted to b6 and attack d5. So b4 is a blunder. That's why Henry Wall played g6 so that the bishop, in preparation, if white still go on with b4, the diagonal will belong to black. All right? So, okay, here. G6, what did Alekhine played here? I will play knight c3 like I mentioned earlier, or bishop e2.
I hate to commit treason, but I'm suggesting knight e6.
Knight e6, again, you want to, you are charged with treason now. Knight e6, okay. Another exchanges. Now, not only that, you probably give the position away to your opponent. Okay.
I'm thinking queen takes c5 instead.
Queen takes c5 first?
Instead of,
Okay, let's go back. Looks interesting. Let's see.
Knight e6.
Knight e6. Am I forced to capture the knight?
Well,
You can
What
move
if
the
I-
queen, just move the queen?
well, if you move the queen, then knight takes it.
Well, you can either take the knight or move the queen. You're not going to give up your queen.
No. What if I check first?
Queen if I check bishop d2.
Then bishop d2.
Bishop d2.
Now you got a pawn.
Queen b6.
Yeah, but now
knight
knight
takes
takes f8.
Very
No,
good.
knight
No, knight takes c5 is free
Knight takes c5.
because it's attacked twice. So the check is no good. The only move here for black is capture the knight.
Why don't you look at captures with the knight?
Then queen takes.
No.
Yes.
Let's do this first. One by one. One by one. Queen takes and then pawn takes pawn.
Queen takes.
Queen takes. And then either bishop c6 or knight c6. Don't you think black recovered here? And in this diagram position, we notice that it's only one white piece out, and black is already about to be developed after bishop g7 and b7. 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5. And what did you get after all that exchanges?
Plenty of open lines.
For you also. Right? So your attack that you are trying to develop, you lose your patience and you just force matters in the position. Okay. Another rule is you have to be patient. Patience is a virtue. Come on. Okay? Be patient in your position. I think that is the difference between these masters. They are patiently waiting for the opponent to crack under pressure. And for upcoming masters like you, who wants to finish your opponent and let's go have some fun. That's it. No, let's find another way to deal with the position. Okay. It looks very entertaining though, but you see, in chess, it's not about entertainment. It's about gaining points. You have to win, all right? At the end of the day, it's important to win no matter how you get it, all right? So here,
If you cheat, then no, that's not.
96, not good. Probably Alekhine entertained it. Instead, he discovered attack on the knight with f3. You see now the discover attack.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Right, now, where do you think the knight should go?
Well, it has to go to a4 unless you're gonna do something.
I don't think a4 here is very good
Yeah, true.
because, for example, let's just try this one.
F6.
It's a skewer. It's double attack,
Well, the bishop is defending the knight.
right? Double attack and a rook g8, for example.
Rook d8. Rook d8, hoping for queen 6 a4.
Hoping. Oh my goodness. Okay, now this is just a picture of chaos, confusion, and conflict on black's position. It's just horrible.
Okay,
Right.
knight e5.
So we should not go here. But it's not a bad move by itself. It could be, you know, why black can pay dearly for that knight move. So what else in the position? Maybe b6.
6, finally.
Finally,
Or e6.
there's one that we missed. Why not queen c7? My stuff.
Thank you.
Queen c7. Okay. After queen c7, where are we?
You still play queen d4.
Okay, what should you play here if you're white?
Queen c3.
Very good. You're reading this book, huh? Queen c3. Title of this book, by the way, Meet the Master. It's a very old book I found in a used bookstore. Now, here, queen c3 attacks the what?
Rook.
Again, the third scenario in the position where we find Alekhine used the discovery or the what we call X-ray attack. Another one, not only an attack on the rook, but the pin of the queen. The queen is pinned. The knight can't move just easily like that. Okay? Because, for example, this is the threat. Knight e6 protects the queen. Unfortunately, this capture. And after queen takes, white will be ahead a piece. All right? So, you see this type of moves in Alekhine's game again and again. This is the third time. It's in as many as just 11 moves. He already played these ideas 3 times. It's amazing. So after queen c3,
Did black resign yet?
rook knight 1. We will not learn anything if he just resign. He might as well find he make himself useful to the students of this era, right? So rook knight 1,
b4.
b4 between a pawn and a piece. That's a rule, Rubin's rule. If you have a choice between a pawn and a piece with the same idea, attacking the knight, right? b4 attacks the knight.
b4 wins the knight.
You think so? Now b4. Don't we have some kind of skewer here? A barbecue? Invite everyone?
Knight d4. Oh, no, that doesn't. Black.
What happened? How come it's suddenly chaotic?
Weird, right?
It is beyond weird. This is
Now knight e6 works.
knight takes e6.
No.
Knight e6 works now.
No, for black.
Because now if pawn takes knight, queen takes queen check, knight takes.
Hey, it still doesn't work.
It still doesn't work. Pawn
e67.
check, king takes.
Now bishop
2,
to
4, 5, 2, 4, 6.
bishop to b2 and white to piece up.
Y is a piece up. Okay, very good. Everybody following?
No.
Don't worry,
It's this boy. It's his fault. He's making all these very difficult lines for the intermediate class. May I remind you that this is an intermediate class? Okay. Let's go back. Okay, let's go back and avoid all this chaotic position. This is just.
Black 4 times over the wall.
Can you even remember where the pieces came from?
The queen was on C7. The white queen was on C3. Knight were still on.
There you go. We're back. No.
The bishop had.
So, this was the position. Instead of pawn b4, the more saner bishop e3 probably is better for sane move and avoid all the problem in the diagonal. Okay, over here is safer between a pawn and a piece. Choose the piece. Okay, this is a weakening, and who knows what other problem in white's position will show up if you play that very weakening b4. Okay, this is much safer. Bishop to c5 with the same idea, by the way. So bishop king 3. Now the knight cannot go e6, so he has to play b6. There it is.
Now can we play B4?
After b6, let's wait. Let's see what's going to happen. You want b4. You really are itching to play that move for so long now.
Well, it finally works.
Alekhine, well, b4 still doesn't work, I believe.
But now bishop G7.
Yes.
Knight D4. Knight D4 works now down on the chaos.
Knight b4.
As we examined earlier, he doesn't have knight E6. So this just wins a free piece.
You still have to go to this variation again and again. Huh? After knight e6,
Pawn takes.
queen takes check,
Knight takes.
knight takes, bishop takes pawn,
Okay. And white's piece up.
2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 7. Yeah.
Conclusion, white's piece up.
Okay. White is a piece up. Very good. Unfortunately, Alekhine did not play that line. He said, "I'm more. I want more in the position, not just a piece." He wants to checkmate the king. Remember, he's an artist. So knight c5 instead of b4, knight d2. Get back to the classical approach of playing chess. Develop your pieces rapidly. Okay, develop your pieces. And here knight d2, and white has an advantage. And this is always a threat. It was Michael Adams of England who said that your opponent is worried with one move. Keep them worried and keep that move in stock, so that your opponent will be constantly worrying, when is that move going to show up, right? Such is the idea of a British #1 player. So here, that will always be a threat. Now, the threat is always stronger than its actual execution. Remember that.
So the
right?
bishop was moved, or
The bishop was not yet moved. Sorry. Very good. Good point. You're paying attention. Thank you. And the knight is not here. It's your fault, all of this. So, after b6, knight d2. Okay, let's get back to the position. Let's be quick here. We're still in the opening. Oh my goodness, it's already half an hour. Queen knight to queen 2, bishop to knight 2. Okay, here. What will you play after the bishop attacks the queen? Do you allow the
Queen C2.
pin, knight d4, queen c2? Queen c2, by the way, it will be met by bishop.
I say target the bishop back
Very good.
with the bishop, so that you could get the rook after.
You fight fire with fire. All right, so very good. Let's fight the bishop with another bishop. Let's have a heads-on approach. Let's see. Nobody should rule the diagonal except me. That's the idea of white. Okay. After bishop d4, there is a face-off between two opposing archbishops. Popes. There should be only one pope. We have two right now, right? and the Orthodox church somewhere. Where are we going here? Bishop D4. Two popes are fighting against each other. A face-off. Who should win? Okay, let's see. After Bishop Queen 4, that I won't give in. Might as well nobody should rule that diagonal. So let's exchange. And probably here at this point, Henry Wolf offered a draw. Draw?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Knight. Which one to capture, by the way?
Knight.
Actually, it's queen.
I'll keep it
The queen capture because now we introduce a different idea of pin.
You bring the rook into
Very good. You will replace the pin with a much more dangerous pin this time. Unfortunately, that won't work immediately. For example, here,
Knight E3 check.
knight e3 check, and he entangled himself with an extra piece. Actually, with a better. That was the idea, but it has to be refined. It has to be prepared. It has to be subtle. Okay, go ahead.
White from white to a long castle.
Oh my goodness, a long castle here.
Knight B3 check. Are you? Never mind. Seriously.
Let's check here, and it's actually over because of this.
Kiss class.
Queen is gone. Okay.
Kiss class for you. Because the queen is also checking the king.
Castling for castling's sake is not a good idea. You have to castle because it is the demand or the need of the position. You don't castle because my teacher said castle early. No, not to your detriment. Okay. So here,
And also, it's not white moves yet. That's another.
what did black played here? Bishop to knight 4. Remember, if you are in a bad and horrible position, the best way out is
Exchange.
exchanges. Let's exchange. Exchange gifts. Okay? So exchanges will favor the one who has a bad position. So bishop b5. After bishop b5, what should he play?
Bishop takes.
No, because then that's giving the rook a line to come out.
But there's no choice. Actually, this is a helping move for white. He needs to develop the bishop anyway. So, bishop takes. These are what we call the imbalances in the position. He gets what he wants and at the same time you give him something in return. This in the form of an open file, possible here. But Alekhine able to evaluate that it's not too bad because this is permanent, this is temporary advantage. Remember here, static approach and dynamic. One has a permanent disadvantage or a permanent weakness, but he has a temporary advantage in the form of an open file. And how you work out these imbalances in the position will determine your success in this type of game. Okay? Imbalances, dynamic against static. This is static. This is the, okay? And of course, b4 is always able, you can always block the rook coming on a4. Okay? So it's not a problem, supposedly, according to Alekhine. So here, after pawn takes bishop, he castle.
King side, not queen side.
Not queen side. Who said queen side?
Not me.
You're fired. Not only that this is an open file, this is another open file. It's all bad for white. Okay?
Knight B3 check.
I know. Castle here.
Oh, castle king side.
Now black was happy. Finally, I'm able to get something out of the position. Now, activity before king safety is actually a bad idea. When you're trying to attack and your king is actually unsafe, because the king is still in the center, it's not apparent or it's not really clear how white should, penetrate black's position. But again, you cannot just attack without keeping your president under safety. All right?
The king doesn't really have a safe place to go, does he?
Exactly. A lot of you probably won't care if it's, if the king is President Trump, then forget it. Let's. I'm just joking. It's just a joke. Okay? So I might get in trouble for that. So here, delete that in the video. We might get
Like five people here voted.
showed up, and I'm just so here, class. Activity, again, which is a temporary advantage and is static. Okay, king is in the center. b4 was played. attack the knight, block the attack on the queen. Okay, so what do we have here? The knight doesn't have to move yet because he cannot capture anyway. Okay,
But then rook c1 is rook f to c1.
so here black played queen to d8. What's the idea? Getting out of the possible idea of rook c1 here. Okay, so
Or
that's
the
one.
other rook.
Or the other rook to c1. Exactly.
Now, the queen wants to get out of that pin so he can capture the knight. Unfortunately, if he just move here, then the pawn will be captured by the rook.
A3?
And so he played a3 first. I could probably play knight here, but this is also bad. Can you show me?
Knight d3.
Knight d3 and this pawn drops. Very good. So, he has to prepare everything. a3 first. Secure that pawn on b4. Make this rook here on a4 look clumsy actually on the a file.
But now,
Doesn't mean that you have the a file, you get everything. Not really.
but now knight could jump off and go to like.
This is guarded. If this knight was sit here, then yes.
No, the other knight you're targeting, the black knight.
Knight to c6.
Yeah, knight to.
This is
D.
protect to d7. So what?
Wait, so right now white moved the pawn a3, right?
And it's black to
Now
move.
it's black turn, so you will move away your knight that's on c5 to like b7
Because the knight's not really attacked.
He doesn't. It's not yet attacked because
Oh,
it's
that's
pinned.
right.
So he has time to develop the other knight. So here, black was able to recover at least in time. He was able to develop some of his forces now. But you see how imposing white's positions. These two are coordinated. This queen is centralized. This rook is probably out of play, out of work. The knight is pinned. It has to move sooner or later. The queen is still in his original square. The rook is, I don't know what it's doing there. And the king is in the center. So we have a very bad situation here for black's camp, right? And all road points to white's position completely won. And I agree. So here, what did white play or Alekhine played here?
Yeah, not
Anybody? And this is a middle game idea.
Rook E3? Maybe E1?
Very good. Which rook?
F.
king.
F.
F.
Rook F, E1?
Very good. Why?
Because
Because you're trying to push
D.
D6?
No,
Very-
rook A to E1.
A to E1 leaves this pawn and free. Suddenly this rook become active and alive.
Then you push D6?
So this rook F to E1 with the idea of D6 later on or in preparation. But here is a rule in the middle game. If you cannot find a good move, everybody is well posted that sometimes you just want to say, can I play pass? Because everybody is well posted. You don't want to ruin the position. You have to find rooks, they strive for open piles. Knights, they strive for outposts. Bishop, they strive for diagonals. So these are the clue of you finding a move during middle game. All right? Rook F E1. It desires, it's begging. Put me in the open pile, please. So Rook F E1. Very good. Now what? What should black play here? This is dangerous. And as well here, there's not much move for black. Knight can't go there because of D6. This is the threat. You're right, D6. So, step away from that dangerous D6 move. Now we play King F8. So if D6, you just capture or you just play E6.
How
Okay?
about knight G5?
Knight G5.
Yeah. Forcing the rook to win.
Knight G5, Rook G7. It's playable. It's a good move. But remember, Alekhine always find the most maximize the potential in his position here. So what did Alekhine play?
Rook A to E1 wasn't bad because rook takes E3.
He still proceed with your idea. D6. King has no square to flee. Okay? So D6.
E6. Oh no. Knight G6.
Knight attacks the queen. Oh my god, this boy has read this book. It's not fair to everybody here. I'm about to prepare my punchline and you already went to Rook takes knight.
That was the second one I got.
Rook takes knight. Very good. What is the idea of that exchange sacrifice, we call it?
After
So that your knight g5, see, you want it immediately when you can actually wait and prepare the idea. The idea earlier of knight g5 is too early. Okay? Now it's just right. Earlier he wants to play knight g5 immediately, but with only idea of capturing the pawn. Very small gain. Right? You have to go with greater things. So he waited, he played d6, after knight e6, then rook takes knight, exchange sack. And after pawn takes, which is forced, we have knight g5, and look here, we will have a family check on e6. Okay,
Royal check.
family royal check.
royal form.
Right, pork and beans. What's going to happen to black in this position? I think this is resignable, correct?
Yeah.
But let's see, he continued on and he played queen to b8. Survival mode, I believe. Okay, queen b8. Knight takes check. Knight takes pawn check. Where does the king go? b2. I cannot go here because of check there and then rook and then pawn takes again check and a lot of bad things. So king b2. After king b2,
King to bishop
knight
Check.
check.
again.
King b1 again. Force.
Another check.
Now, buddy,
Queen f4 check.
queen f4, it can start flying. Why not this move, threatening mate? Mate here, pawn under attack. All right.
Lots of bad.
So what to do? After queen, queen 5, rook to knight to preventing the mate.
Pawn takes e7 or knight e6.
Knight check, pork. This is force. So he's forcing his opponent with those moves. Knight takes rook, king takes. This is the position.
Now pawn takes e7. Pawn takes
Now what?
exp.
PXP. Knight bishop 3. Okay, how to win a one game? The game is already won, but we have to finish it.
Rook,
Queen 8.
rook e1.
No.
Take the pawn.
No. Queen to queen 8.
Queen to queen 8 is winning. Queen takes pawn.
Oh yeah.
The same idea. Queen takes b5. Rook to rook 2. Rook to king 1. This is massacre.
This should not
Right?
be
I mean, and most players will resign at this point. But this guy is still alive. So queen takes queen to queen 3. This is the position with white to move.
What is going on here?
Queen
Let's see.
e8.
You mean e8 queen?
E8 queen.
Yeah. No, the queen. The queen.
The queen E8, there's a knight.
Oh yeah.
If you
Over the last.
promote this to a queen, for example, there's no queen, other queen in my hand. I only have one queen in chess and in life.
Yes.
Okay. So you like that. So if you have it queen, then he might capture first, and then after the text and queen takes
Takes horse.
horse, and what happened? Suddenly it was equal.
No.
No, you could put queen on.
No, it's not equal
On
because
E5.
There's a rook and a queen both sides. I mean, there's only 2 pawns, but black is surviving. Why let your opponent survive? So, Alekhine found, again, a very neat trick. How many of you heard about the idea of under promotion? Can you believe that you promoted if you have own a company, you're under promoted. From a desk job, you will be a janitor from now on. How many workers will love that? They're probably gonna hate you. So you're here. He under promotes the pawn into a knight with check.
Oh, why?
Knight check. The reason is,
He's forced.
what is the idea of knight check?
Oh, I prefer queen.
Knight takes knight.
Now queen to. No, sorry, knight to.
Queen takes knight. The difference is the queen captured. The check forces black immediately to capture, and after queen takes,
But pawn into a queen is forced black to immediately capture as well.
queen check. Is it?
Why not queen G5?
King b2.
That looks still complicated.
The difference is this queen and rook are protecting each other, right? So pawn to king, rook 4. Let's see how Alekhine finish this. Rook takes pawn.
Okay, queen E7 check.
Why not e8 check? King to knight 2.
Rook to.
King 7 check. Very good. Where does the king go?
Yeah, H6.
King to rook 3.
Queen to bishop 1. And
Queen to bishop 8 check.
king to rook 4.
To rook 4.
Rook takes pawn check.
That's will be longer. What about this?
Oh. Rook to king 5 check.
Mm-hmm.
Now king takes pawn, queen to.
King to knight 5.
Oh, king to 5.
Remember, there's a queen guarding this h6. Mate in 2.
Hey, wait a minute.
The pawn.
No. Queen to bishop. Queen to K bishop. I mean, queen to QB.
Queen to
That
F3.
No, rook takes.
Oh yeah.
And then resign.
Okay, mate in 2. And our class ends in this diagram. Alekhine thinks differently than most of us, huh? Now I realize.
Queen to C8 check.
No, rook E4.
Rook e4
no.
will be a long time because we have f4 and all kind of things here.
Okay.
He always played the less obvious, unconventional.
Queen C8.
Yeah, he showed it, but it will take longer. It's still a win, but you know, queen king takes pawn, and queen c8. Let's try it. Queen c8 check.
No, king F4.
There's no. If check here,
Pawn takes.
huh? There's a pawn here. Okay, so it takes a long time. The idea is to keep your opponent's king in a box.
F3.
F3 check, it goes g3.
Rook G5. Capture. Oh.
I have a beautiful mate at the edge of the board. I hope that everybody enjoyed the lecture this morning. With what?
G5.
The pawn cannot be captured earlier because check. Ah, you missed it. Remember, there's a pawn here.
Sacrifice
No,
the
the
queen.
queen captures.
Yeah, but what was going to happen with life without queens?
That was Medulla.
So he won't capture the queen, but it's over in this position. So rook g5. What's going to happen if your life has no queen? Mate. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed the lecture. Unconventional chess, Alexander Alekhine. Very good. See you hopefully next Saturday.
But my name is
Alexander.